So tonight's film was the Amityville Horror, not the original 1979, but the most recent remake with Ryan Reynolds. I don't know where to even start with this one. The movie itself, phenomenal. It's really cool, especially like now that I'm watching like all these horror movies like so close together, to see something that stands out from the rest, and this one definitely is doing that. I don't know if it's because it's a movie that I hadn't seen before, or just because of the way that it was done that I really enjoyed it. It really gave me those childhood horror movie vibes, in the sense that like when you're watching a movie as a kid, like things are very much more scary than they actually are. And I got that feeling from this movie. Like, just random things would happen. There'd be like weird like flickers. There was a lot of jump scares that I thought were just phenomenal. Like straight up phenomenal. Like I'm pumped on this movie. It's based on a true story. And I always do that because, I mean, anything could be based on a true story. But I have heard of the Amityville horror and like the murder and everything that happened there. And that's kind of where the movie starts, with showing the backstory of what happened in this house, where a guy just started hearing all these voices and stuff like that basically said, what did it say? Kill him, or catch him, kill him. He's later convicted of murdering all of them when he says that he was hearing voices, stuff like that. So then this family, the Lutz family, which is really weird. I've seen the name Lutz a lot in my life, and it's just weird. Like I don't know why that name sticks out in my mind. The city that I used to live in, there was this really weird drive, kind of a little bit out of the city, way up on a hill, that was just a really cool drive, especially in a fun car. And at the very top of it, you get to these iron gates that say Lutz, and this humongous mansion. I looked it up on Google Maps and stuff like that. Anyways, so this family ends up going and checking out this house and thinking like the price of it's just insanely cheap, like it's too good to be true. And finally they decide, let's buy it. The realtor does end up telling the parents, Ryan Reynolds and his wife, that there was people murdered here and all this other stuff, but they decide to buy the house anyways. Mistake number one. Ryan Reynolds' character just starts noticing really odd things about the house, and the daughter, who is Chloe, her name starts with an M. She's in a lot of movies nowadays. Annoys the heck out of me. I don't know why. I just can't stand her. She's the little girl in the house, and she ends up finding this like stuffed animal, and it becomes like her favorite stuffed animal. And it was the one of the little girls that used to live in the house stuffed animal, so it's kind of like their medium that makes it to where she can talk to the old, like the dead little girl. Something that really sticks out to me that kind of really like embodies like the old school horror movies that just aren't really necessarily around these days is the parents leave they go on date night, get a babysitter, some just over the top like hot babysitter. To me, not my cup of tea, but what they were trying to convey, especially when she like takes her jacket off and she just has like this like almost like bikini top style thing on, like lots of cleavage hanging out, and then like her whole midriff is exposed and she's like pretty trimmed, like, and it really like builds on that. And then like the oldest little kid is like to her the whole time, so like it just like has that typical hot babysitter vibe. And then she ends up like laying on his bed and all this stuff, and then she's the one that tells the kids about what actually happened in the house. They're all kind of like hanging out in one room together, which happens to be the room that the little girl who the stuffed animal belonged to was murdered in. So the older brother like dares her to go in the closet where she was murdered, so she does. And then she gets kind of locked, and then the door slams shut. They can't open it from either side. She starts freaking out, banging on the door, and then the little girl appears, and the babysitter can see her. And legit, like, I guess the babysitter was mean to the little girl back in the day or something like that. It doesn't really necessarily say what actually happened between the two of them, just that that's what the little girl says. And she like takes the babysitter's finger and grabs it, and I'm like, oh god, that's gonna happen, because the little girl was shot in the head, so there's a bullet wound right here, and then like the whole back of her head is just missing. And takes the babysitter's finger and just crams it in the hole, like deep into that hole. And it's just so great. And then the babysitter obviously like freaks out, loses her mind, and like passes out, and then next thing you know, there's paramedics there and she's being wheeled off. And just little things like that like just such a shock value to them that I just love in movies. Ryan Reynolds in this movie blows me away. Like, Ryan Reynolds is a hilarious guy, very quick-witted, which is one of the things I absolutely love about him. But to see him in a more serious role and really knock it out of the park, because as the movie starts, he's kind of the first one that has things happening with him and the daughter, I guess technically, but more so him, where he's like hearing things, he's noticing things, and he starts just really like spiraling into madness, legitimately. The way that he does the portrayal of it is so good, and it does a really good job at explaining like what happened and like why he is becoming this way. And I'm not going to really get into that right now. How well he does it, like, it just really, really surprised me to see Ryan Reynolds like actually like get serious and do something really well. I don't know the ratings on this film. Chances are they're probably super low. It just seems like anytime there's a movie that I really like, the ratings on it are absolute. Moving more into a spoiler-esque zone. A couple things that I want to touch on. In the original story, the guy who killed the whole family killed the dog. And so in my mind, I was like, hey, there's a dog in this movie. I wonder if he's going to kill the dog. And he does. And it's such a well done way, like, to where he doesn't just like, oh, the dog is being fucking annoying and then just kill it with an axe. Like, no. Well, yeah, actually, but he sees a spirit come at him, and so to defend himself, he swings and then swings and swings and swings, and then realizes, I just murdered the dog. Which is pretty cool, because they never really like touch on it. Like, the next morning, obviously the kids notice the dog's gone, stuff like that, but that never really gets brought up again beyond that. And just how crazy it'd have to be to live with, like, knowing I just murdered our dog. And it wasn't on purpose, but it's kind of hard to explain, like, this isn't on purpose because I was attacked by a ghost. There's a scene where he finally breaks open the boards downstairs where there's like rotting and the dog was really scratching at. And there's just this catacomb of all these different things. There's a couple cells and a door at the end of the hallway that opens into this room. And as that's happening, the wife is also reading about all of this stuff and learning that this is what happened in this house because she started to look at the library into the history of the house. He wakes up and he realizes like that was all just a dream. He didn't actually see all those people and everything like that. But she's also reading about it. So is it like still technically under the house? Actually, like, is actually there and she just didn't know and he doesn't actually know? He just thought it was a dream? Another cool little twist is as Ryan is spiraling and kind of going off his rocker and she's realizing that he's going crazy, they end up downstairs in one of the side rooms that he had like walled off and then like built a wall and made it into a room. He just has these coffins with all their names on them. Like, it's just, oh man, the movie just keeps going. Even just kind of the way that it wrapped up with them like fleeing and being on a boat, and once they get him away from the house, like he's fine and like realizes like, oh shit. Like, I thought that was a pretty cool way to end it. Nobody actually died. There's a couple scenes where you think people die. Like, there's a lot of times where something happens and then it snaps out of it and you realize that didn't just happen. That's what could have happened. Now we're gonna actually do what happens. Where he is about to like kill the kid with an axe and the mom puts a shotgun to his head and he like turns and points it at his face, and then she freaks out and's like, I can't kill you, blah 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 blah. And then he just swings and hits her right in the stomach with the axe, and I was like, oh what? And then like he wakes up and then he realizes that didn't actually happen, and I'm like, god damn it. And then another scene too where like, I don't remember what makes her fall, but something makes the mom fall in the water, and the propeller of the boat's on because Ryan Reynolds thought he saw something under the boat, so he figured he'd turn the propeller on. And I was like, dude, no, she's not about to die like this. Like, it's not very often when I'm watching movies where I'm like like, I don't do like the typical like I don't get scared, but I'm just like, no way. And like, I did that a couple times in this movie. I'm gonna throw this one a 10, like straight up. It just, it really gave me the same feeling that I had growing up watching horror movies, where I'm like, things are just eerie, but also super well done, and the movie just is really well done. The jump scares, the acting, the things that happen around the house, and like even like the way that it like wraps up, where when they get away and everything like that, then the little girl's still standing there by herself, and she's like sad, like this lone tear dripping down her face, and the whole house kind of restores itself to back to how it was, to show like that there's still evil in this house. And then just whoom, she just gets pulled into the ground, and even then I was like, oh, wasn't expecting that. So definitely check out the Amityville Horror. I'm not sure if it's on any streaming sites. Again, just another one that I rented. Definitely going to be adding it to my collection.